There are a total of 12 character classes. There is an all-trades Abbey. Yes, that is the name for the Dragon Quest IX version. 6 of them are unlocked from the start, and 6 you unlock through optional quests. Your main character starts as a minstrel, and once you complete the All Trades Abbey quest, you can change to a warrior, priest, mage, martial artist, or thief. But in the beginning of the game, you can also recruit characters at an inn and make them any of those 5 classes. 6 bonus classes that you can unlock through quests and are very cool and have their own unique abilities are Paladin, Gladiator, Armamentalist, Ranger, Sage, and Luminary. Let's talk briefly about what each of these classes do. A warrior is kind of a heavy hitter, a priest is a healer, a mage is a magic attacker, a martial artist is an agile attacker, a thief can steal and also can do some support. And the minstrel is kind of a jack of all trades class, so it actually suits your main character pretty well in the beginning, but kind of becomes useless as you get later in the game. What are your experiences with the first 6 classes?
I had a mage end game, so I like the mage a lot for one spell because it's always worked in Dragon Quest, and it's called Oomph. And that spell is insanely overpowered. Always has been. Um, I liked the martial artist, maybe because not necessarily for the martial art, but for the claws, which I the claws themselves have a really cool move that does 2 attacks that cost no mana. So that was huge.
Ooh, that's Alina style. Dragon
Absolutely.
Quest 4.
Thief, I never touched except for to upgrade a sword skill.
Okay.
Warrior is awesome, but beaten by another class later. Priest, I found probably got good, but I didn't level it up past 30 something. And then minstrel is your starting one, which when like at first you're like, whoa, this is pretty cool, until you realize you're a freaking minstrel, and then it's like, oh, like I'm supposed to like kind of buff my team, I guess, and then not much else. So you'll want to get rid of that as soon as you can. What about you?
I also liked Mage for Kafrizzle,
Yeah.
which is like the highest power single attacking attack. And then I forget if there was Boom, but there was also like Crackle, which is like a attack all enemies. And when I was just going through dungeons, I would just spam that. And I'd have an item that would restore magic power as I walked. So the mage became super OP, never had to change. I think I had never changed that class to get other ability points. I didn't even level up the wand. I leveled up the vocational skill just for the magic power and the extra magical might, which is your magic attack power. The warrior is super buff. You have the shield, so that's useful as far as defense. It's kind of a tank. I had a spear warrior, which we're going to talk about like the weapon skills in a second, but the spear was super useful because especially for metal slimes, there was an attack that would be a critical hit attack that hits maybe 30% of the time. So that was kind of my go-to, is like get in a battle with a metal slime, accelerate the party, which never got the warrior fast enough, even for the liquid metal slime, and then use the spear thruster to take down the metal slime. And I'd be farming super hard for XP by doing that. I think going forward, I would probably have 2 spear classes to try and like knock out the liquid metal slime, a little faster.
Mhm.
Priest was super helpful, but I never got Kazing. I only had Zing. Kazing comes super late, like level 45, which you don't need to be that high for the end game. So, I mean, I still appreciated multi heal. That was super helpful for me. And then I don't think I really used the priest for much else. As far as attacks go, I never bothered with making the priest an attacker. I tried to make him a sage at the end, but it wasn't worth it.
Eh.
Did not use martial artist except for getting some quick vocational skills. Did not use thief. Minstrel, my main character was a minstrel, and I found that out at level 34, and I was like, oh shit. So I quickly switched him to warrior and then one of the bonus classes.
All right, you want to tell us about these bonus classes?
Sure, I don't know all of them. I think like an armamentalist can like make you better with like some kind of elemental defenses or something. The ranger's like a bow user. I had never been able to buy a bow for a character. Um, Sage is kind of your multi-purpose healer magic user, and Luminary is like an extension of Minstrel, basically to buff the party. Interesting that that's an option, but that only comes up in post game. You can't get Luminary in the main game. I messed with Paladin and Gladiator. I thought I could get away with having a Gladiator by just making my main character the Gladiator, and that would carry the team. But I needed some defense for him because I didn't have. You can't put a shield on a Gladiator. He's basically just an attacker, unless you have omnivocational shield usage, and I did not want to level up that skill tree. So what I did was I made my warrior a paladin, and he has a skill called Whipping Boy. In order to get the paladin class, you have to do a quest that makes you use Whipping Boy 10 times. Doesn't sound like fun, but it helps you with your paladin, and you can take the damage for other characters. There is a skill later for the paladin class that lets you take damage for the whole party, but my paladin wasn't high HP enough to do that, so it wasn't great. And I think one of the things I didn't like about this system was that it comes up so late in the game with like finding these quests, finishing these quests, that these characters are now super underleveled and not able to be fully used to their full potential. But my gladiator was stronger than my level 34 minstrel at probably like level 20.
Yeah. Yeah, I did Gladiator and Sage. I changed both my mage and my priest to a Sage. Didn't like where it was headed for my mage because I wanted oomph, so I switched back. But I kept the Sage on the priest, so the priest just became a Sage. And as soon as you get multi-heal, that's basically all you do. It sucks, but I wish it was a little more complex, but that's all you're going to do. My main character went from minstrel to warrior to gladiator, and then when I realized I couldn't use a shield, became a mage and leveled up shield as much as I could on there. Switched to priest, leveled up shield as much as I could on there, and eventually got my gladiator to use a shield. So that my main character was a beast. And then my martial artist became a gladiator and never looked back. It just hit really hard, I guess. I would switch back to keep leveling up the martial artist part of it, but that's it. Apparently in the post game, it's like mandatory that everybody has omnivocational shield. So that's what you would do, is level up the shield on everybody, but don't matter. I was really looking forward to this aspect, and I was a little bit let down with the bonus classes. I think 3 and then 6 and 7 all do these really, really well. And I don't know. I don't think level 5 system works as well for the switching classes. I
think hypothetically it should, because characters can share weapon classes or shield classes. Every character class has 4, some including the shield, some not. So you can switch to another class and you can be leveling up that weapon or that shield, and the traits will carry over. And then if it doesn't, you can just put another 12 in and get omnivocational, like Giga Sword or whatever, and then like it'll carry over. I think that where it suffers is like, well, I don't really want to, and I don't really want to like start again from scratch, but you kind of have to kind of buff up your characters. Every character class has vocational skills, which are useful. Like it'll boost stats that I need. I think pretty much everyone I went to warrior or thief or something, and I got like 10 HP just by putting like 4 slots in or something. I don't know, 4 skill points. But I think it's just too complex and it's too annoying. Because if I want to grind, I just want to keep my level the same. I don't want to start over. It's good that you don't have to start the other class over if you want to go back to it. I feel like Dragon Quest 3, you had to do that.
I think
You had to
so.
restart your entire level, which you don't usually get to that point. It's not like I don't think you'd ever feel like you messed up that bad. But I still find it convoluted. I do like that if you level up a sage enough, you get a skill that lets you just do it on the battlefield, change the class.
Yeah.
It's called like Jack of all trades.
Mhm.
So it makes it easier, but um, it's a weird system. I think Dragon Quest VIII had something like this too, right?
Not a changing classes system, but it had the
No, but a
same,
skill tree.
yeah, the same points based skill tree situation.
I like the skill tree.
Yeah.
I like feeling like I have some control over what kind of character my character is going to be. Um, I think one thing that might have benefited this is like a skill point reset feature.
Yeah.
You just like pull back all your skill points and reallocate them.
Yeah, that
Would have
would have
made this
helped.
feel less tedious, you know?
I agree. That that was weird. Like I at one point I didn't realize that you could store your points until a little bit later in the game. So I had maxed out my gladiator, not my main character, but my other character that was a gladiator. I maxed that out and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do with all these points I keep getting because I don't want to switch her because I have to do damage and so that one's just going to stay that. But I don't know what to do with these points, so I just shoved them in like swords or something and didn't realize it's like, oh, like you don't have to use the points. You can just switch to other classes and use them or whatever. I didn't even think about that. And so I lost some of the points. It would have been nice to have some kind of restoring function. But, you know, it didn't. The thing is, like, I bet you all this stuff matters a lot more in the post game. But in the regular game, you are totally fine at like an average of around 38, level 38 or so. You don't really need to go too deep into all this.
Yeah. But if you wanted to, I mean, you can. Like it, you can optimize your party.
You know,
I think go ahead.
well, people did that with 3, which I always found interesting. Is
Yeah,
how,
right, because 3 is like the easiest of the NES games.
yeah, it's not like a hard game and you don't have to get that strong, but people really did min max that game. And more power to you, but it seems unnecessary. But there's a group of people that does like to do that.
If you were to give somebody kind of like a guide to making the best classes in Dragon Quest IX for a standard playthrough and a post game playthrough, but we'll come back to that. Making the best classes for a standard playthrough, what would you advise?
You need one will be a gladiator, with the caveat that you have to max shield. So you have to get omnivocational shield because a gladiator with a shield is a monster. One should be a sage, but again, at like highest. Obviously, the thing is the highest level you can get. The
Can I stop you for a second? So you want the gladiator to have a shield. Which class should it start as?
Probably the warrior. Probably. But anything that gives it physical damage. You could argue the martial artist to get more agility. But it's not necessary because they'll be strong enough that it's not like a spell is going to kill them.
Yeah.
So it should be all right. As long as you can max that shield. And then probably a sword or any like item that doesn't take up any too much slot. So yeah, probably a sword or a spear or something.
The axe is super helpful for that gladiator too. It's a heavy hitter. But I did like the sword. The sword gets Falcon Slash, which is a 2 hitting attack.
Unfortunately, costs mana. And the gladiator has, I think my gladiator at the
Like
end of the
16.
game had like 20 something at the very end.
But it's like 2 mana or 4 mana. So you get a couple Falcon Slashes in.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you'll want a sage. In an ideal world, but the sage is a little bit weaker than it was in Dragon Quest 3,
You want a sage from a mage or a priest?
Priest. To me,
Why?
oomph is too powerful to give up. And I don't know if a sage gets oomph. I certainly didn't get it on my playthrough. If they can get it, cool. The problem is though, is you need somebody that's gonna multi-heal. Because you cannot play this game without like multi-heal. It's pretty much required. So
By the way, a sage does not get oomph.
oof.
Oof.
Yeah, to me, the mage is then a required class, and the priest would become a sage.
The sage also gets multi-heal super early, like level 24, so it's not that bad.
Yeah. Yeah, like when I was playing, my priest never got multi-heal. I just switched to a sage and got multi-heal pretty quickly, and then I never looked back.
A priest gets okay, they get multi-heal at level 38.
Never got there.
Yeah.
And then for a third, I don't know. Probably just another gladiator. I mean, that's what I did was gladiator.
But you want a mage to have oomph.
Yeah.
Right? That's your third?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then they just get whatever goes along with being a mage. Kaboom. Kafrizzle.
Yeah.
That's really it. The Dragon Quest is not a complex game. One character just uses multi-heal and Kabuff. And then one character does oomph and Kafrizzle. Realistically, because in a boss fight, Kaboom doesn't matter. And then the other characters hit really hard with their swords. And
I think there's another issue in that a lot of the late end game bosses will just decrease your buffs with Disruptive Wave. So you have to keep rebuffing them.
Yeah.
I really find that it's important to be able to take some hits in this game. So while I like the idea of a paladin, I think for a standard playthrough to go back and to get that after is too tough. But your mage and your priest will get knocked out so easily that it's almost worth considering. The sage too. The sage HP is crap.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can put some stock in resilience and HP, but it's tough. So I guess my playthrough, and you know, by the way, one of these classes, if the vocational skill, if you put like 4 points in it, you get Whipping Boy, which takes a hit for another character. Yep, it's Warrior. A warrior gets it with 8 skill points in the Courage vocational skill. So I definitely recommend having 1 to 2 warriors. And you can kind of play with the weapons. I recommend having some kind of metal attacking, thing. Mm-hmm. A liquid metal slime is going to be your best XP farm for grinding in this game. Gives you 40,000 XP. And there's an easy way to kind of farm them because you can see them on the map in this game, not like with previous games where it's random encounters. Mm-hmm. So it's actually quite easy to farm intentionally in this game. And the spear is super helpful. A sword is helpful with metal slash. So I think it's up to you if you want like 2 swords, 2 spears. And then I think you need a priest for healing abilities. And then the 4th is really up to you. Probably a mage. Some people might want to go sage. It's up to you. You could take your priest and make it a sage. And then you could just have a ball with the 4th. I kind of agree that I don't think there's like a necessary 4th. You could do 3 warriors, have a blast, kick some ass.
Yeah.